Welcome to
Oh, can't hear you. Can't hear you, Enrique. We are
welcome.
live. That's how we show
Good
we're live.
afternoon and happy Wednesday. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we're with you.
Kristi, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, that kind of changed my introduction for sure. This is the first time that I'm conducting a live stream, but I'm really, really delighted and pleased to be here today. This is our first live stream of Logistics with Purpose as part of the Supply Chain Now series, Logistics with Purpose. I'm super happy. We have an amazing guest. It's incredible to always talk to such inspirational, exciting, and engaging individuals in this show. Kristi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited for our first live stream, but as you said, I'm more important for both our main guest and our surprise guest. People are going to love them both.
I totally agree with you. So go ahead, Kristi.
Yes. So thank you all. People are tuning in from all over. I'm already so excited to see all the comments from the other side of the world and everywhere in between. So thank you for tuning in. We're excited to share today's message with you. If you don't know us yet, we are Kristi Porter and Enrique Alvarez from Vector Global Logistics. We are a global logistics and supply chain company who are passionate about people, passionate about getting our clients results, and more importantly, passionate about logistics with purpose. So we're excited to welcome you here today, and we love sharing stories about people doing good in the world, from Terence today, who's right here in our own backyard, to people who are working internationally and just making a huge difference. So we love just spotlighting people. So we're excited for you to hear this interview. And first of all, before we welcome Terence in, if you're not familiar with Love Beyond Walls, then we want to play a quick video so that you can learn a little more about them, and then we'll introduce you to Terence.
I was taught growing up that people experiencing poverty or homelessness were dangerous, or they did something wrong, and so that's why they're experiencing what they're experiencing. I might see someone on the side of the road and it would tug on my heartstrings. I would look away because it's easier in some ways to just look away. I think coming to Love Beyond Walls and getting to know people and getting to know their stories, even though I might not be able to provide a job or a house, all the things I thought I needed to be able to do before, I think I realized how impactful it can be just to listen to someone's story.
One of the things Love Beyond Walls is active in right now is advocating on behalf of people who are experiencing homelessness and poverty.
What I love about being in Love Beyond Walls community is the fact that it is just that it feels like a community.
It's time for us to educate about how people who are living on the streets are criminalized and marginalized. They're people, and they're going through problems. They aren't problems.
Putting myself in a minority in every sense of the word has wrecked my life in the best way. It has brought forth, I think, the best things in me, and I'm able to use them for other people.
I think if everyone was to make a small difference, if everyone was to do something, it would make a huge impact.
You are part of the solution. What are you good at? What's your talent? What's your gift? How can you contribute to your neighbor and use your God-given talent to lift them up? You never know how your investment will literally transform someone's life.
Terence, good morning, good afternoon. How are you doing today? It's always a pleasure having you here.
I'm doing awesome. Thank you for having me. Good to see you all.
It's a really powerful video, and as the video said, it's really up to all of us to do something about things in life, and you have a very, very important cause that you have been supporting for quite some time, and we want to get into all that. But if you allow me for just a couple of minutes before we get in, I actually have a surprise host that is going to join us today. I am a little bit biased, but I really, truly admire her, and I really learn a lot of things from her every day. I mean, I can without a doubt say that my life's been way better having her. And she's smart, strong, caring, and truly fearless. So with us today, Emma. Emma, how are you doing today?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing great, Emma. I heard that you're skipping classes for this.
I am, but it's totally worth it, and I'm so excited to learn as much as I can.
So why are you so excited about Love Beyond Walls? And by the way, Terence, she is your #1 fan. Like, she's been really talking about this and meeting you and having the opportunity to talk to you for a while now. So, but tell us why you actually are so interested, Emma.
At school, we learned we have healthcare hero posters, and they're put all around the building, and you're one of them. And like me and many others, we had to write a nonfiction story about the healthcare hero posters, and I chose to do it on Terence, and I learned his inspiring journey and so many other good things. Now I want to ask you a question. What is a good memory as a kid that you have with your family?
A good memory. Yeah, I think the best memory I have with my family as a child was going to the swimming pool. My grandmother and grandfather actually had a swimming pool behind their house. And I would always like to have, family gatherings where we have barbecue cookouts and jumping off the diving board into the pool. It's actually the same pool I learned how to swim, and it was just always fun to be around family and swim and eat food.
Wow, that's awesome. I love swimming too. What advice would you give to your younger self, and why?
Yeah, that's a really great question. If I'm thinking about my younger self, who is in K through 12, I would probably say to listen, to make sure that you listen to your teachers, your educators, your advisors, but most importantly, your parents. There's a lot that we can learn from listening. Not just listening to people that we know, but also listening to the stories of people that we don't know, that are inspirational and inspiring and that can teach us about the world. Listening is so powerful because it gives us an opportunity to grow and be our best selves.
Terence, thank you so much. And before I let Emma continue with her questioning, and I'll have her here to ask all the tough questions, of course. I wanted to say welcome to our audience, and I want to say welcome to Robert Grossman, Shahid, Mahesh Nagila, Peter Boyle. He's been with us. He follows us on every single live stream that I've been on, at least. Hey, Peter. It's a pleasure to have everyone here, and there's just a lot of people so interested in learning a little bit more about you and Love Beyond Walls. Hani from the Netherlands, we have a lot of people from all over. Pat Polanski from Books for Africa, we've worked very closely together with him, so hey Pat, thanks for joining us. Susan Nichols and a lot of others I'll continue to read. Please, if you have any comments or questions for Terence or for the show, just feel free to just add them on the comment section. I'll make sure, or will try to field some of them. But with that said, go ahead, Emma. Do you have a couple more questions?
Yes. I read you were homeless at some point in your life. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, I just want to say, Emma, thank you for being so inquisitive and asking all of these questions. I think this is a great way to continue to grow in your development and as a leader. I see you as a young leader, and thank you for asking these questions. Yep, to answer your question, I experienced homelessness temporarily when I was a teenager. I got a chance to meet one of my friend's fathers who became a mentor to me. There were times when I wasn't able to physically stay in my house. And so there were times when I was sleeping in parks and from friend's house to friend's house, or times I was even living out the trunk of my car as a high school teenager. And so one of the things that became a real benefit for me, and even an opportunity, is what I just mentioned earlier when you asked what's the most important thing that you can do, which was listening. And I got a chance to listen to my friend's father, who became my mentor, who gave me guidance and encouragement, and gave me an opportunity to see the world differently from what I was physically and experiencing in my reality. And so with his encouragement, I actually was able to finish school, go on to college, form a family on my own. And he was actually the person that inspired me to launch and start Love Beyond Walls. The first year I actually started Love Beyond Walls, I found out that he had cancer and he passed away. But I'll never forget the lessons that he taught me, the inspiration that he gave me, and always seeing the best in me. And I try to model that within the context of my own life, of affirming the dignity of anybody that I come in contact with, address or not. Because like I always say in many of my talks, just because you don't have an address does not mean that you're not a neighbor, right? And so that's the message that I try to get across to anybody I come in contact with, to see people.
Wow.
Thank you, Terence. Yeah, and we also just again want to acknowledge everybody hanging out in the comments. Thank you, Shahid, for joining us, even though you're tired from work. I think you're also on the other side of the world from us here in Atlanta. So thank you so much. And as Enrique said, we're happy to put any of the questions you have forward to Terence. So if you have questions, then please chime in. We have some of our other friends joining us. Hey, Adrienne. Hey, Scott. Hey. It's so good to see friends here. Hi, Jim. And then all the new friends that we're meeting as well. It's so fun. India, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're excited to be here, and mostly we're excited to share Terence's story with you. And as you can see, it's a really interesting story, and he has a lot of insight to share with us. So please, if you have questions, then we're happy to get them answered for you. Emma is our Oprah. She will get the answers out of him. So, but anybody else who has questions, then we're happy to pose those as well. So thank you. And I think Emma has another question for you too, Terence.
Yes, I just want to say thank you for your answers. That was really inspiring. And I want to know what your favorite part is about your business, Love Beyond Walls.
Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Yep. Really great questions. Again, thank you for being such an awesome host and a special guest. I think the most joy I get out of the work that we do is twofold. One, it is being proximate and getting the opportunity to be close and befriend so many wonderful people that are overlooked. I'll never forget, I was interviewing one of my friends named Tyrus, and he was without an address. And he was talking about fear, but he was talking about fear and what it does to him as a person who doesn't have an address. He talked about how the fear that others have of him actually did damage to his self-esteem. He says when people lock their doors or they roll up their windows or they turn their heads away on purpose and intentionally, that hurts me. And basically what he was trying to communicate was, he says, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm an uncle. And he started listing all of these characteristics of what he was. And then he said, he goes on to say, I'm Tyrus, I'm somebody worth being seen. And where I am right now doesn't necessarily define my worth and value. And those stories are so powerful because we get a chance to affirm the dignity of people who are overlooked, who are deemed invisible, and who are criminalized, even when a person doesn't necessarily know the story that got a person into the experience of homelessness. I think suffering is and pain is universal, and that at any given point, we can all find ourselves being one paycheck away, or one life event away, or one experience away from the experience of homelessness. And I think that we have to push back against the notion of defining and labeling people based upon one experience, because everybody who arrives in this plight doesn't necessarily have a mental health issue, or they're not addicted to a substance. Some people lost their jobs. Some people became physically ill. We've seen this happen time and time again during COVID-19. Some people lost loved ones. My wife and I actually lost our brother to COVID at a very young age. He was 38 years old. And we even saw how his family, after the loss of income, had to be transitionally and temporarily homeless as well. My nieces and nephews, right? And so these are real things that people go through, and we can't sit back and allow what we've heard about people experiencing homelessness to define how we treat them. And then the second thing is this. I get a chance to educate people about the real and raw realities about what people face every single second. Like my friend Virgil, who says he uses a rain bucket to collect water when it rains. He says, I literally have to pray for it to rain. And when it rains, I get all this water in a bucket and I sit it out in the sun just so I can bathe and clean myself. We don't think about the times when we toss a half empty water bottle in the trash that someone uses that to brush their teeth out of. We don't think about when we throw or toss an old pair of socks away that somebody is using those same pair of socks as gloves during the winter. We don't think about the damage it does when we actually look down on someone. And so being able to educate people about those realities helps to build empathy. And I think in this time that we're in right now, we have a real empathy deficit. And just like one of my friends who is an author, her name is Belinda, she wrote this book called Brave Souls. She says empathy is the virtue that is muscular enough to deal with the complexities of our time. And she's talking about compassion and empathy and seeing people. And I just love that as a part of the work that we get a chance to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like I see you everywhere I turn in Atlanta because everybody knows who you are and you're doing such incredible work here. So I'm excited for the rest of the world to keep hearing more about you. And so you gave us a little bit of the backstory for Love Beyond Walls. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you were up to before the pandemic? And of course, you made national headlines early on in the pandemic, not just for the amazing work that you're doing, but because you had such a quick pandemic pivot. So will you tell us kind of before, in the few years leading up to the pandemic, what you were doing, and then now how you guys have transitioned and what you're working on now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So traditionally, we have a center in College Park, which is probably 2 miles outside of Atlanta, but we are considered housed in Atlanta. For a number of years, we use this center to give people access to technology. I mean, gosh, we're using technology right now to even communicate. And you think about the number of people experiencing homelessness that don't have access to technology. We use our center to help people recover their identification cards, because oftentimes when you don't have ID, you can't get a job, you can't cash a check. You can't get housing. You can't open a bank account. You can't drive a car. A number of things that it takes to function day in and day out, you can't do if you don't have this one piece of identification that proves you are who you are. Well, there's a problem with that because you need ID to get what? ID. And so there's, times where we were partnering with lawyers to solicit these critical pieces of identification to help people transition out of homelessness. We use our center for temporary housing. We traditionally use RV units that were donated to our organization to provide spaces where we can intentionally and approximately work with individuals that we have befriended to help them walk out of the experience of homelessness. We had, free showers. We launched a museum for people to come and visit and be educated about the experience. So day in and day out, we were, constantly, immersed into engaging in the community. We had food co-op. We were doing a number of things. And then when the pandemic hit, it kind of altered a lot of things because we're a volunteer-led organization. We went from seeing, 500-600 volunteers per month to less than 10, because initially you had all these volunteers quarantining and being physically distant from one another, and that kind of caused us to have to make some tough decisions about how do we pivot, how do we continue to show up for our community. And I'll never forget, we had this guy named Dimitri come into our center. And he had come there for food resources and to leverage communication to use the phone. And he started saying to everybody in the center, "I'm afraid that I'm going to die," literally his words, "because I have nowhere to wash my hands. I keep hearing that you're supposed to wash your hands. And how do I do that? Because I can't access water." And because our organization is poised to respond to the needs as opposed to being a conveyor belt model, we always are open to how we can actually meet the needs in front of us, like real time, right? And so I had this idea. I started thinking about the RVs that we were using to temporarily house people, and how a lot of them have features like portable cooking station, porta potties where people can use the restroom, portable hand washing stations. And my idea was to take this feature that was already in existence and repurpose it to service a population that I knew would be locked out and shut out of many facilities, because they were already used to not being able to access water and not being able to go to in public spaces, etc. And I remember telling my wife, "Hey, I think I'm gonna put sinks in the middle of the streets, for people to have access to wash their hands if you don't have access to that water." And she says, "Yeah, you should go and do it." And around that time, my friend Lecrae reached out to me, and he donated the first 15, and 15 turned into over 1,000 right now that we have placed all around the United States. Huge shout out to Vector Global, which you don't want me to shout you out, but I am, because your logistics company helped to get a mass amount of these portable hand washing stations, so people who are living on the margins of society have the access to sanitation, because sanitation is a human right. And so here recently, I just told you a story about Virgil. And so here recently, we've been taking the 250-gallon tanks. Two of those, we've been repurposing those because they'll be thrown away, and turning them into self-contained portable showers. So that's where we are right now. We're pivoting to sanitation, and we're still on the front lines, providing this critical resource.
It's amazing, Terence, what you're doing, and it's just we're very proud to be not only talking to you here, but work with you and your team. I've seen you guys work firsthand, and everyone's super committed and passionate. Peter here, really good comment, Peter. Really crazy part is being homeless can happen to anyone at any time due to no fault of their own. We need to extend our hand and support. Bravo, Terence. I mean, there's people flooding these comments, and I can't really keep up with them, but it's great. Great what you're doing. Another comment here from Simon Joyner. This is actually a question to you, Terence. When did you know that you needed to write I See You, and how did you feel writing it?
Yeah, that is a great question, Simon. It was 2016, and I was sitting in the office on a Saturday. We didn't have any programs going on, but I was doing some administrative work, and there's a knock at the window. There was an elderly lady. She was 69 years old, and she says, I heard there's an organization helping people with food like I haven't eaten in a few days. I don't have any more of my Social Security funds. And so I got up and I walked outside. I looked around the door and I didn't see a car. And I said, well, how did you get here? And she says, well, I walked. And I put the address into my phone, and it was 7 miles. This lady had walked 7 miles just for a bag of groceries. And it started to, really cause me to think about many of the people that actually access our community center, that are walking tons and tons of miles just to access resources. And this lady actually inspired one of the campaigns that we launched called MAP 16. And MAP 16 was a march against poverty where my family allowed me to walk from Atlanta, Georgia, all the way to the White House. We actually turned this campaign into a documentary film called Voiceless, where we interview all of these people in different parts of the United States of America about their struggles with poverty. And along the way, I kept having people ask me these questions about, what is homelessness really like? What do you mean when you say it takes courage to be poor in this country? And I was going through the physical exhaustion of having to get up every single day and walk 14 miles. It took me 2 months to complete this journey. And I started feeling these real deep emotions because every day I woke up, I was physically tired and I had to continue to wake up and press forward. And I related that as a metaphor to poverty. It's tiring, it's physically exhausting, it's emotionally draining. And every single day, people have to wake up and put their best foot forward, even when they don't have access to the proper resources. And so all of that inspired me to write I See You. And I think it's a call that we're all called to do. I think if we've learned anything during COVID-19 is that we need to see each other. We need to understand the lack of access that many of our neighbors have if they're wrestling with disparities, and that we are stronger together, right? That we can do more together than we can apart.
Absolutely true about that. And it's just at the end of the day, no matter in what side of the aisle you are, we're all humans, we're all living in the same planet, and we just need to kind of take good care of each other because no one else is going to. And Susan Nichols, thank you very much. She actually has a very specific question as well. How can we help someone who is homeless, and how can we deal with the helplessness we feel in that? Because approaching homeless in general, Terence, and you probably have seen this over and over, it's not easy. Sometimes you react probably the wrong way. Sometimes you actually have a little bit of a sense of, for all this media and movies and things like that, paint a picture of homeless that, as you mentioned before, it's not what they are. But that's what we kind of believe, or what we kind of grew out to believe in. So how do you break this kind of cycle? How do you approach a homeless person? Let's say after we finish this show, if I go and encounter someone, what would you tell to me and other people like Susan that have that question?
Well, firstly, I want to affirm Susan. I think it's a really great question. The work that I do is really tough work. But one of the first things that I like to do is reframe how we talk about people experiencing homelessness, and affirm the personhood of people who are living on the streets. Because I think the question that I would ask back is, how do we do that with people who have access to houses, right? How do we continue to show up and support people who may be selfish, who may have access to resources, who can walk over to a thermostat and change the temperature? I like to center personhood, because I think as we navigate in showing up for people whether they have an address or not, it's messy and it's hard work. I also, normally ask people to think about who was the last person that hurt them in their life, right? And in most cases is not somebody who has been living on the streets. It's someone who's had access to resources and privileges. And I just think dealing with the human condition within itself is messy. Building relationships with people is messy. Showing up for others and practicing what Henry Nouwen calls as selfless compassion is messy. And I think it comes with a number of things. One, it comes with healthy boundaries that, just because I show up for you doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing work for you. That means that I'm practicing proximity and presence, but I'm keeping healthy boundaries in place so I don't allow the vicarious trauma to overtake me, right? It's the same thing that, airplane pilots or airplane hostesses say, a stewardess say on the airplane, put on your own oxygen mask before you share it with someone else. The second thing too is that I think it takes intentional courage, right? And what I mean by intentional courage, of course, is courageous to show up for people and to show up and be selfless for your friends and your family members or someone who is also living on the streets. But I also think you have to be intentional about being in a community as you do that, right? How do you build the type of support systems where you don't feel like you're shouldering all of this on your own, right?
Well, and Terence, and sorry to interrupt you right there, but when you're saying things like that, it sounds a lot like you should be okay making mistakes. I mean, it takes time. And you're like the first interaction, my intro to this live stream. Perfect, and you'll probably say the wrong things, and probably you'll be embarrassed, and the homeless person will be angry. But you have to, you just have to get over it, right, and try it.
It does take time. That was my third takeaway. It takes time. That we can't put a time limit on someone's transformation or growth and development. That we all succumb to stumbling. We do really good and we stumble. We do really good and we stumble, and we take step backs. And I think that is the nature of life. The question I would ask, Susan, who asked this question, in thinking about that, if you set up those structures in place where you maintain your own sense of health and your boundaries, is a person that you befriended worth fighting for and going the distance with? Because what I tell people in talks all the time, I'm walking with people. I'm not walking for them. And so reframing that and making the distinction could help you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I also wanted to, you've touched obviously on the campaign, the Love Sing Sin campaign, and also you briefly mentioned the Dignity Museum, but you're talking to an audience that loves to know how things work and loves to know how to get things places. So those are two, there's a reason that Love Beyond Walls has been such an effective champion in this. So can you talk a little bit more about how the Sync project actually works and how you guys get them refilled and all of that stuff? And then hopefully, I'm guessing the Dignity Museum will be back in commission after the pandemic, and it's an amazing concept. So I'd love for them to hear more about that too.
Yeah, so the hand washing stations actually work through a decentralized volunteering system. Currently, we have over 70 partners, and mainly we have partnered with people who are already in the proximity to many of our persons who are experiencing homelessness. And so volunteers actually restock and refill the hand washing stations on a daily basis. They go out, they clean them. When a station is empty of soap and water, they refill them. We've seen kids out there on the front lines, with their parents or their church community or their small group or, volunteers who are partnering with the organization and continuing to show up. And so it's all based on the goodwill and good humanitarianism of people who want to provide this critical resource. And it's been so amazing to see how people have used such an intense moment in history to actually come together and show up for other people who may not have the basic necessities that they have for themselves. And so that's been really inspirational. And to your point about the Dignity Museum, the Dignity Museum is actually housed in the shipping container. And so we converted a 40-foot shipping container into a museum, which is an immersive experience. It has technology and, facts and, all sorts of things on the inside of the museum where people are able to go in and learn about people experiencing homelessness, but also learn about the myths and the facts, right? What people actually think about their own experience. They'll be able to listen to stories and track this oral history of what actually led someone in, the issue of homelessness and what actually got them out of it. Another cool part of it is broken up into 3 sections. It's challenge stereotypes, create empathy, and inspire action. And in the create empathy section, there's a wall, and we've taken the words of people wrote on signs that people hold on the corners, and it's very impactful. And one of the phrases that always makes people tear up is there's this sign that says, Mom told me to wait right here. That was 10 years ago. And you think about the number of people who are actually writing out of their heart in many ways, prose and poetry to communicate to the rest of the world what they're feeling on the inside on these signs. And so people get a chance to interact with that, but also realize that we do need empathy. And what I do for you, I'm also doing for myself. If I could borrow M.L. King's words, we are a world house and a global village.
Amazing.
Wow, that's so inspiring.
Yeah. And we've had people in the comments donating, buying merch. Thank you guys. Keep that coming. So to that point, what is it you guys need right now at Love Beyond Walls? How can our community support you? What would you ask of us?
Yeah, that's great. I'm really intrigued in the 250-gallon tanks. Right now, we are in need of many of those. Because we want to plant self-contained showers. I wish I could show you a picture, but if you can imagine, they're flipped on upside down, and they sit on top of each other. They're already kind of set up for drainage, because on the 250-gallon tank, you can drain the gray water out. We use a tankless water heater, and we mount it on the side, and we use a water pump inside of another container that shoots the water up, and it's already private because you can't see inside of it. And so if people want to donate, we are looking for donations for 250-gallon tanks, and they range from $200, $250, around that range. And we have a goal to try to create like 100 of those.
Fantastic.
Terence, are you going to start launching that new campaign here in Atlanta as well, and then spreading it out as you did with the Think Loves campaign?
Yes. So we actually created the first version of it, and we've been using it since February. And now that we have perfected it, we want to continue to plant those all around the city of Atlanta and continue to spread those. And we've had people already reach out from all around the country. We're going to also create a DIY video if people would like to do it themselves and donate these to organizations.
It's amazing.
Yeah, really, truly incredible, and what you're doing. And it sounds like the sky's the limit for you. I mean, you started small and you started launching different campaigns, and you have become an icon when it comes to really helping others and making sure that we care for each other. So thank you once again for everything you do. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. And Emma, thank you. I hope your father was joking about skipping out of school. But you asked some amazing questions, and you're a great co-host.
Thank
you. So, and before we let you go, and I know that you're incredibly busy, Terence, I wanted to come back to Emma and Kristi just to ask you after this conversation that we had with Terence. I know you, Emma, at least had so much expectations about this conversation. You were so nervous yesterday. What was the number one thing that you kind of take out of this conversation with Terence? And Terence, if you don't mind, we'll probably have to invite you again, because there's so many other things that we need to talk to you about that it's just not enough time. I again thank everyone on the comments, Mahesh, Susan. There's so many comments and questions that it's just not possible to kind of fit all of them into this episode, but we'll do another one. So with that said, Emma, Kristi, your number one thing, and I'll start with Kristi.
Oh, I was going to say start with Emma. Okay.
I can start with Emma too.
Go, Emma. Yeah.
Go ahead, Emma.
I think my number one thing that I'm going to take out of this amazing interview is, like, when you have a goal, keep working for it. Keep going. Keep helping. Try and help as many people as you can. Listen, learn, and just inspire other people. And that's exactly what you're doing, Terence. Thank you.
Awesome. I think for me, question and a comment. My comment was more, one of my takeaways was just, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to start small and keep growing. There's, so many needs all around us right now. And so I think just every interaction matters, and everything you can do to be kind to someone else matters. And so that was sort of one of my takeaways. And then my question along those lines is, because this is an invisible community at times, what do you feel like people should know about the homeless population? What do you feel like they want people to know? Or what's something that's just not common knowledge that we should know?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many things. The one thing I will say is there is a growing trend across the country to criminalize the experience of what it means to not have an address. Like in January 16, 2021, a city in South Carolina actually banned camping. And we all know that there's a bed shortage all across the United States. So, like, if you can't sleep outside, then where do you sleep, right? And so people actually have to uproot and leave the city. In many ways, that is a form of further displacing people. There are also laws that discriminate against sharing food, like what me and you could do. Like, we could sit outside and I can give you a piece of a sandwich and there would be no fine. But if you do that with someone experiencing homelessness, you can be ticketed in certain areas. There are other ordinances in the United States where you can't sleep in a car, even if you're working a job and you can't afford the rent, say like on the West Coast, right? That you can be ticketed and even taken to jail for sleeping in a car. And so when you think about the criminalization of what it means to experience homelessness, I think we need to reframe how we associate going through this experience, that we need to humanize people, that we need to respect everybody's story, and that we need to affirm the dignity of those who are suffering. We've all suffered ourselves, right? This is the human condition. Even if it's not with the same type of issue, we know what it means to be in pain. And so how would we withhold the love that we would want for ourselves, that we can so freely give to those who are also suffering? And that is the message, that we need to see people, that we need to affirm the dignity of others, and that everybody, no matter how damaged the packaging is worthy of having their dignity affirmed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you, Terence.
Very, very, very powerful. I'm sorry, Kristi, You were going to say something.
No, we could do this all day long. I mean,
I know.
fountain of wisdom.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Please go to see the showers and to buy the book and watch the documentary series. Everything. Please go follow Love Beyond Walls on social media and give. You won't regret it.
You're such an amazing speaker too, Terence. I mean, just listening to you is it's great. I mean, you have a good voice and you know what to say and how to really reach out into people's feelings and hopefully bring the best out of them. So thank you so much. As always, you can count with our full support for whatever you need always. Thanks to the audience. Again, a lot of people, a lot of comments, a lot of questions, a lot of thank you notes to you, Terence, that will pass after this. And we'll definitely be posting this interview right after this live stream completes. Thank you so much for joining another episode of Logistics with Purpose. Thank you so much to the team at Supply Chain Now. I mean, you probably didn't see them, but they're behind the scenes. Natalie, Clay, Amanda, Scott. Thank you so much for your help. And Emma, do you want to close the live stream?
Let's do it. Thank you so much, Terence and audience. I hope you learned a lot and got inspired. Make sure to follow Vector Global Logistics and Supply Chain Now. And while you're at it, go follow Chica.Alvarez. Have a wonderful Wednesday. And if you liked this live stream, make sure to stay tuned for more. Bye.